Hello, everyone, and welcome to the world's most famous podcast. I'm your hostess, Jacqueline Maddison, and this is my little girl, 11. I thought I'd have her join the show today. Today we have a very special guest, Daniel Redfern. He is one of the leading fine artists in Northern Virginia and San Francisco, and his work captures the myriad facets of beauty that our world holds. His painting reflects landscapes, celebrities, pop culture moments, and so much more. I'm so excited to dive into his journey, learn about his incredible God-given gift and talent that he is sharing with the world. His art resonates with both personal and universal themes. So join us as we explore his creative journey. Let's welcome Daniel to the show. So, hi Daniel, welcome to the show. It's such an honor to have you today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So let's get started with you telling us what first inspired you to pursue a career in fine art.
Yeah, so I've been a fine artist since 2001, and I love painting. And growing up, I'm originally from San Francisco, California, but we moved to Northern Virginia in 1993. And there's a town called McLean, Virginia, which could be Beverly Hills' sister.
Nice.
And I know it's beautiful. It's a beautiful town. And I love going and driving through and seeing all the beautiful homes and how they're constructed. I've always loved craftsmanship, and that really inspires my imagination. I have two great states that I traveled between frequently, the great state of California and the great state of Virginia. So they really provided me with ample inspiration between the both of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I always say God is the original artist. So I
Yes.
mean, just look at nature and it's all inspiring. So you have such an incredible gift. I've seen your works and they're so beautiful and they range from so many different themes. What sort of influences your artistic style and where do you get your inspiration for your work?
Yes, of course. So I would definitely say I'm a contemporary traditionalist. And people might be like, oh, what is that? Well, I love the traditional art. So drawing, watercolors, even ballet, oil paintings. I really started out in watercolors, which is hilarious because I didn't like it at first. It was so time consuming and it took so much time and it's just hilarious. But now I'm doing like these larger than life sizes at 39 by 40 inches. They're huge. Yeah. And also my oil paintings are also 50 by 70 inches, and I've always been visually gifted, so I see the completed piece in my head before I put it down on oil or watercolor, and I've always kind of just seen that, how the images come to me naturally, and then I'm like, I gotta draw that, or I gotta paint that immediately.
Wow, yeah, that's amazing. It's like a divine gift, and you begin with the end in mind because you can see it, but now you just have to create it.
Yes, exactly. It's so funny because all of my artists here in Washington, D.C., they're like, what? They're like, they're more process-based, and they use the processes to get to the completed piece, where I've always had it in my head before I've even started.
Right, and someone like you, I think, is really painting from the spirit. It's really a spiritual gifting. So can you tell us the story about your first commission piece?
Yes, of course. So my first commission piece was way, way back in like 2005. I actually did it for my cousin when I was much younger. And I did a painting, I believe, at his house. He was remodeling it. He lives in San Francisco. And so I had done it for him. And then word of mouth just kind of grew from that. This is way back in like 2005 when I was still in high school. And since then, I've amassed quite a portfolio of more than 5,000 original works of art.
Wow, 5,000, that's a lot. You've been really busy. That's beautiful. You're contributing and expressing so much of your gift.
Yeah, so in Washington, D.C., I'm probably one of the premier artists that has such a large, vast private collection. And just recently, only recently, I work full-time and, I'm very busy, but I've been trying to sell works. And this work, the Eternal Rise of the Golden Shadows, actually started during the pandemic, because I was working from home. I had tons of time on my hands, and I saw this divine angel in my head, and I was like, how am I going to get this out? So I started drawing him, and then I started painting him. I didn't like it at first, how it turned out. This was like 2022, and then I just finished him in 2025, like a few months ago.
Amazing.
What makes this piece so unique is all the gold. The gold is from the 1920s. It's over 100 years old. and there's thousands and thousands of sheets of gold, even layered underneath all the oil paints. And it's just a beautiful complementation about, the process of these fine arts, and it's just about prosperity. And it was during such a dark time that I painted that painting as well.
Yeah, so what is the name of it again?
Yeah, it's called The Internal Majesty and the Rise of the Gold and Shadows.
Wow,
it's
that's
a 50,
beautiful.
Yeah, it's a 50-inch by 70-inch oil painting, all done with Michael Harding Oil Paints, which is the premier United Kingdom. I've always used his oil paints. They're very heavy, which I prefer because it's easier to mix all the colors, and it's less watery. I don't like the watered, oil paints. And I have all this gold that I wanted to use in a piece, and I just thought this was fitting to bring light to such a dark time. I mean, being home during the pandemic, my mother had just had her second open heart surgery, so it was just really a dark, dark time, and I wanted to create this piece to bring light and know that the world is still a beautiful place, even though we're all stuck at home during the time.
Yeah, well, I love that you painted an angel and you had a vision of an angel, especially during such a dark time. Like, I myself am a Christian, and so in the Bible, like, there's lots of angels, right? And they really are our guardians and our protectors. So I think that's so beautiful. How do you normally choose the subjects of your paintings? Are they visions, inspirations you get, or just personal choice?
Mostly visions. I do take a lot from San Francisco. That's my inspiration, as well as Washington, D.C. I remember I did the Library of Congress, the interior shot, and that took about a month and a half in a watercolor. And that was just beautiful because I love going and visiting there, seeing all the books. It's the largest library in the world, and we're so lucky to have it here in our, America's backyard. So I love that. But usually visions, I think about something or conversations I'll be having with somebody or a client, and they'll bring something up, and I'm like, oh, wow, I just imagined that. And spoiler alert, I am going to be on the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. I was commissioned to do a piece for Meredith Marks and Seth Marks, her husband. They're the nicest people, so I was so happy to do an oil painting of their family.
Yeah, that's congratulations. That's so exciting.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, so this Eternal Majesty is a recent masterpiece of yours. How long did it take to complete?
5 years. It took 5 years.
Wow, 5 years.
Yeah.
Now, okay, go on. What's your typical process with something like that? And is 5 years usual or unusual for a piece?
This is probably, so I have like crown jewels in my collection. This is one of them. And then another one I'll get into. But this one, I think, I just wasn't happy with how I originally had drawn it out. And so I wanted to revisit it. I paused. I took several months off. It always sat in my back corner of my basement, which is where my studio is. And my sister would come home, come over, and she'd be like, "Are you ever going to finish that piece?" So it's just,
she was encouraging you.
She was. She was always encouraging me. I love her to death. And then I just went and I usually combined a natural, material to all my pieces if I can, like gold. There's another one that has silver leaf, which I'll get into. So I had all this gold, and I really wanted to use it in the piece, and I thought this was fitting with the tones and the colors and the visual composition of the piece. And it just turned out beautifully. I think it would make a really great home for somebody, definitely in a library or a parlor or dining room. I've had a flood of interest, but I definitely want to find that right buyer.
It's a very opulent piece considering the gold elements, and really the theme of it is beautiful. And so how much does a piece like that go for?
Yeah, so right now it's available. It was appraised by the Naturalist Gallery, which is a huge online gallery. They have a small presence in New York City. It was, appraised at $9 million, and so that was the price that the gallery curation team felt it was great. So that's on sale. It's been on sale for 2 months through the Naturalist Gallery for $9 million.
Oh, okay. So if a buyer is interested, they purchase it through the Naturalist Gallery in New York, or they can contact you directly?
Yes, and I can give them the link to the gallery website.
Oh, great. So now how do you what's your typical process when starting a piece, and how do you decide on the color palette?
I love that.
Yeah,
definitely. So I always sketch it out in my head, and then I look at what paint I have available. I recently just did a flamingo lagoon park for summer. That was one of the themes I had in my head. I love tropical theme. So I sketch it all out and I mix the colors, and then I start with the base, and then I add on top of that. And if I don't like something, kind of like Photoshop, I go over it as well with the paints. And it just always turns out really, really well. And I let it dry. And my sizes are so large that usually people don't notice small or minor imperfections as well.
Right. Yeah, I know. Your work is incredible. Like you do natural landscapes, you do family portraits, you do celebrity pieces. They're incredible. So what draws you to these subjects, specifically in the celebrity world and pop culture?
Yeah, I've always, my mom grew up in La Cañada, Flint Ridge, and so which isn't too far from Beverly Hills, it's in Los Angeles, and so going back and forth between the two, she would always talk about celebrities and, things growing up and Hollywood icons and old Hollywood. And so that just really enamored me growing up. In Virginia, it's more senators, politicians, congressmen. And so that, it was just really great to experiment with old Hollywood. I love Taylor Swift. I'm definitely a Swiftie. I love her music. And so I did a painting of her a few years ago. And then also more recently, I've been commissioned to do Saudi royalty. So I have done 2 Saudi princes in my portfolio as well for the State Department. So that's a huge honor. I love Saudi Arabia. They're the nicest people. And there's a huge embassy here in Washington as well.
Excellent. Yeah. So how do you overcome creative blocks, if ever? And what role does music play in your creative process?
So I love music. You must know someone creative because music is everything. I love certain beats and, songs I'm listening to. I'm really into Ava Max right now, who's a younger singer in California, Los Angeles. I also love Rihanna. I always love Rihanna. I really get into music when I'm listening in the car. A lot of my visions come in the car, definitely, or at home. And
in the car, yeah. I find the car is a think tank for me, too.
Exactly. Especially when there's traffic in Northern Virginia.
That's wonderful. So how do you balance personal expression with public appeal in your art? Or is that not even a consideration?
It just really depends. I have a lot of clients that want their families done. So I've definitely done more family-based this year. So as opposed to me just doing landscapes and things I love.
Right.
But I have definitely a great balance between the both of them. I really never get creative blocks. I definitely, if I don't feel creatively connected to a piece, I leave it and revisit it.
I love that, yeah. I think sort of, for myself personally, creatively, pacing yourself, I think is the best thing because your inspiration and sometimes comes in spurts. Like I find when I do that, I accomplish a lot more, and that's probably how you can complete such an intricate and detailed masterpiece over time.
Yes, it's so funny. The number one question I get asked, and I get flooded with thousands of DMs and emails, and I try to respond as best I can, as quickly as I can. The number one question is, how do you have all that time? And I'm like, I literally get home at 5 p.m. and I have all night and no family and no restrictions and being single, so there's lots of time to complete these pieces.
Absolutely. It's like your love, your passion, and, when you have that, you spend your free time doing that,
Yes. One of the other pieces that also went viral for on social was this beautiful painting of Beyonce that has more than 10,000 sheets of silver leaf on it. It is based off Gustav Klimt's portrait, The Woman in Gold. So I love Beyonce. She's one of my favorite artists. Hopefully everyone likes Beyonce. She's a genius.
I saw that. And so tell us more about that. Is that available or it's sold?
No, it's available. I think a museum would be great or a gallery. I've gotten a lot of smaller galleries, in Charlotte and in Miami, but I'm in Washington, D.C., of course.
Or even if Beyonce buys it herself.
Yes. Fingers crossed.
Right.
It did recently appraise for about $30 million because of all the silver leaf in it. Again, from the 1920s, going back to that old Hollywood glamour, all the enamel, blue enamels, red enamels. So I do try to take things from the past and, reinvent them into new things now.
Yeah, that's a stunning piece. It's really beautiful. How long did that one take you to complete?
2 months. It was a lot.
Wow.
It was a lot. And I loved it so much. It's definitely the crown jewel of my collection, I feel.
Lovely. So can you discuss the symbolism in your piece? I believe it's called The Roses Within.
Oh, yes, Christina Aguilera. So growing
Yes.
up, yeah, I love Christina Aguilera, her music, and also Stripped was my favorite album. I might be dating myself here, 2002. But it was such a beautiful, beautiful album. Anyone that listens to that album, she's just a musical genius. Even some of her more recent things, the 2010 album I thought was beautiful. I love listening to that in the car. But 2002 was just such a weird time because we just had 9/11 a year before, and anyone here in Northern Virginia had the DC sniper, which was a horrific tragedy, and so I just really drew from that time. That was such a fun time being young, carefree, and so I just love roses. I use it in all my paintings. I love roses. So if I can't, the secret's out. If I can't ever think of a background, I'll definitely use a rose instead.
Roses are my favorite too. I love them.
Aren't they
so
beautiful?
I love
They're
that
just
you use them
infinite.
in your work.
I know. They're just infinite. I think they're literally the sign for infinite beauty and everything glamorous in the world. And I use them all the time. And I had a piece I just created that was off of Adam and Eve, which is another biblical reference. Yeah. And that had gardens of roses as well, just because it was beautiful. And whenever I think of rose, I think of the beauty of humanity.
Right. No, absolutely gorgeous. So what message do you hope viewers take away from your paintings?
I hope that they see that I combined, old materials with new, fresh takes on things, and that I have a great reputation. I think I want to reach the right audience for this particular painting. And I just, I love Beverly Hills. I travel there quite often. I have friends in the city council. So I just hope to reach the right audience as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, every piece does have its perfect buyer, right? The person it's sort of destined for. Mm-hmm. So now, how do you ensure a commission piece aligns with the client's vision? Because that is a talent in and of itself.
Yeah, usually my clients give me photos for reference, and I take certain elements from each photo and I mock it up. I draw it, and then I sketch it out and paint. I, knock on wood, haven't had any changes ever. But in my professional life as a brand manager, I've had millions of changes. So, I think clients are much easier to deal with because I know them personally. And new clients, I, of course, have an intake meeting with them, and I hear and listen to all their concerns and what they're looking for. But my pieces are unique. They're larger. They're imported paper from the United Kingdom. It's definitely not your, Plaza Art Supply paper. It's very expensive, resilient, rice paper canvas that will outlast me for sure.
Wow. That's excellent. Yeah, actually, I was going to ask how you handle feedback or revisions, but that's wonderful that you haven't really experienced that. But I think it's because your work obviously exceeds expectations, because when a client has commissions you to do something, they have a vision in their own mind, and then when you show them what you've done, they're like, wow, probably blown away,
Yes, they're usually blown away, and especially recently with the family portraits, I've had 2 clients cry, and it's just really overwhelming because that person that I'm depicting has passed, and it's really touching from an emotional and spiritual connection.
Absolutely, and that's the thing, the value of art is, for me, priceless because it's so subjective,
And also, it's immortal, too. It's immortal.
It's immortal, but a family portrait, that's going to live on through generations. That's why it's so valuable. And just in general, I can see a piece and fall in love with it, and I absolutely have to have it,
Yes.
And so that's why I love art, because it's just such an intangible value.
And I always get messages from people all across America, which is so touching. They're like, how can I get started? And I said, just start, make a portfolio, make a website, make a business card, but write all your ideas down and just start executing. Don't even wait for feedback or criticism. Just start, and then you can build your portfolio and go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Nike really figured it out. Just do it.
Yes.
But now, yeah, exactly. Well, it's about taking that leap of faith, though, I think. When you have a dream, and especially a God-given talent or gift like you have to use that, because sharing it with the world is aligned with your divine destiny and purpose. It's imperative, because Yeah.
I definitely think art, I think it can be taught to some degree, but I think you're either just born with it or you're not, in my humble opinion. Just based
I
off.
agree.
Yeah, I just, I think
it's like singing. Some people just, they have it and they don't.
Exactly.
Even playing piano, some people are just wow, and other people, they really have to learn and study, and they just can never get to that level of playing.
Exactly, and it takes time. It took me 15 years to build my business on the side. I always worked full-time at very high stressful jobs for large companies, and it just, I always did my as a side hustle because my boss would be like, oh, you must be daydreaming again. I was like, well, I have all these images in my head. What do you want me to do about it?
Right. Yeah, forget the naysayers, the people who are, oh, you're daydreaming, oh, yeah. Along my path, I used to have people that I was working for, they sort of say little comments that would normally discourage you, but I think that we have to pursue our dreams. We have to, no matter how, and it's not easy, but it's so worth it when, like they say, overnight success takes 10 years, right? So you have to put in the hard work that kind of earns the success, if you know what I mean. It's part of the journey.
Yes, and I literally created like 5,000 pieces of art, and only 2 have really made it to the big time. Like one is $9 million in value, the other one is $30 million, and that took time. That did not happen overnight, not at all.
Exactly. But now, so you're somewhat of an entrepreneurial artist. I mean, you're absolutely. So how do you balance the creative and the business aspects of being an artist?
I think the business honestly came from my grandmother. She was very entrepreneurial. She worked for LA County schools for 40 years. She raised 3 children. She was a go-getter. She came to Los Angeles in the 20s at the height of the Spanish flu pandemic, and she was a go-getter. She did not take crap from anybody, and she raised 3 kids on her own.
That's great. That's a great role model, I mean.
It is. She was my everything. She taught me actually how to paint and draw. When my parents, they were in Guam for a brief time in the early 90s, and I would stay with my grandmother, and she would sit down and say, okay, you're going to be a big success one day, and just go for it.
Oh, I love that she spoke that over you. So again, like my sort of biblical paradigm is our words have power, right? So we must speak, the things we want to see, speak and encourage our children, even ourselves, We can be our own worst critic a lot of times, and I think we really have to learn to
especially on social
ourselves.
I think especially on social media, anyone that can post a piece of artwork and stand back and have total random strangers comment on it, I think you're stronger than you know.
Yes, absolutely. So now how do you determine pricing for your pieces independently from appraisal houses?
Yes, so I have a list on my website, which is danielredfern.net. And that list is just the base pricing. So my larger sizes start at like $8,000, and then I usually build upon that. If there's 5 people or 10 people, people take a lot of time. So usually for landscapes or things like that, things that aren't too intricate, they're averagely fairly priced for the materials I'm using.
Wonderful. So what has been the most rewarding moment in your artistic career up to this point? Because you've got many more years to go.
I know. I would say definitely the appraisal process has been very interesting for me because I, in my head as an artist and creator, have a range, and it's like a nice normal range, but then I'll present something to the appraisal, house, and they'll be like, okay, that's going to be 10, 15 million. I'm like, wait, what? What's happening right now?
Right. Well, again, because it's an original. It's a one of a kind. And
yes, and again, the materials
from 10, 15, 30 million, it's priceless. You can't put a price tag on that,
And again, some people, some of the criticism I have faced is, wow, you'll never find a binder. Well, we live in the richest country in the world, so that does not faze me. I've had billionaires email me and call me at 3 in the morning because there's a time difference between the zones. But, I just really want to support everyone I can along this journey of mine. And so the Naturalist Gallery was my go-to because I sold so many pieces with them in the past, and they've been great and very flexible. So whoever helps you along the journey, you really have to go back to them full swing and help them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, how do you stay motivated and inspired in your work? Or it's just a natural thing, you just love it, or
I just love it. I've always loved it. I definitely get my inspiration from architecture. So just thinking back to San Francisco, being 5 or 6 years old, going on the pier, then seeing all those skyscrapers, or in D.C., seeing the 100-year-old federal buildings that are beautifully draped in gold and carat, and even undergraduate when I was at the George Washington University through the Corcoran School of Arts and Design, that building's 200 years old. And so I would always get my inspiration from the chandeliers or the marble floor and the marble facades, and I just, D.C. is just my visual mood board. I just go walking. I love the National Gallery. They see me almost every weekend, and I love getting involved with them. I love the National Gallery. It's beautiful, and so really just places like that. And California is the epicenter of beauty, and it's where my journey began. So traveling between the two states has really been a blessing because I get the best of both worlds, and I have 2 great, wonderful states as homes.
Yeah, absolutely. So how has your approach to the art business evolved over time? I'm sure you've sort of matured with respect to the business aspect of being an artist.
That's a wonderful question. I really just jumped in. I knew about 10 years ago, I told my sister, I want to be a full-time artist, and she didn't want me to do it. So she said, definitely work full-time and have it as a high hustle. I'm really glad I listened to her advice. And I get approached all the time about the books, commissions, but you have to be careful because you don't know where people are from. That's why I've reached out more recently to the appraisals and the galleries. I'm like, here, can you tell me what you think this will be listed for? And I've loaned out a couple paintings to some art galleries across the nation. That's been really fun because I don't know if they're going to sell, but at least they're in galleries and, other places. And so I really just jumped in, but I definitely look to the established institutions to guide me. I don't try to do anything on my own yet.
That's smart. That being said, what advice would you give to other emerging artists or about building a business in the art world?
I would say your elevator pitch is your best friend because you could be in the elevator at the Sotheby's building in New York, and if you have 2 or 3 minutes to pitch yourself, you've got to get that down flat. And that's definitely been a challenge for me, but I've definitely aced it over the years for sure.
Yeah, nice. We've got to not be afraid of a little self-promotion.
Right, and no is not the final answer. It can be no now, but in 6 months when the economy recovers, they could call you. You just never know.
It's so true. Even though no's can be painful, I always see them as one step closer to the yes, and I do believe that a lot of times it could just be a timing issue. So that
yes.
Gives you hope.
Exactly. And a no is also a connection. You're making a connection with someone, and they may not say yes to your work, but they may remember your work from a year, and relationships in this business are everything.
Relationships in life are everything,
Yes, that too.
And like sometimes the stars just align and the right people, come together at the right time. And really, I think God ordains a lot of that stuff. And so it's really just timing and divine alignment, So that's why to be patient.
Yes, for sure. And I will say the best networkers are artists because they know everybody and they know how to hustle and do taxes. And, we wear a lot of hats as artists. And so I always try to support other artists.
Yeah.
Even if they have like 5 followers, follow me and I'll repost your reels. I'll do what I can in my spare time. But we really are a network of American artists.
It's so true. I love the artistic, creative types,
Yeah.
There's just something about them. As opposed to the left brain scientific engineer type, that those people have their giftings and God bless them, because the world wouldn't be where would we be without them, right? But then we have us, our creative types, and people like you who are just contributing so much beauty and creative works that are just masterpieces.
Yeah, and artists, see the world so differently, and so I think the uniqueness that we see the world through our different lenses make us so unique, but also, like you said, the beauty is just everywhere when we create things.
Yeah, it's true. So what are your goals for like the next 5 years or 10 years? Short-term, long-term, let's do that.
Yeah, short-term, I would love to sell more pieces. I am making a catalog of all 5,000 of my pieces. That is taking a long time, of course, because of the scope of the work and the magnitude. I would love to have them all framed, but honestly, it's going to be a huge expense. But, for now, they're doing great. I think my long-term goals, I would always love to go back to San Francisco or La Cañada, California, or Los Angeles, and have a gallery, a physical gallery in one of those places permitting, or in D.C. I think definitely there's lots of galleries that always want me to join and co-ops, and I'm a little apprehensive about that. I've always kind of been not a rebel, but I've just been, I work with the McLean Project of the Arts here in Northern Virginia, and they're wonderful in McLean, Virginia. But, that took a couple years, and so I do volunteer when I can to teach arts to either, underprivileged students or people that maybe not have the Head Start, advantage. I love doing that. I love helping people where I can.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
I think that
it's
a
so
charitable initiative in everything that we do is so important.
Because it comes back to you tenfold. I mean, if you help somebody out, it's just good karma all the way around.
Yeah, so true. Like Jesus said, it's far more blessed to give than to receive, and people don't really understand that, but that's exactly the divine law. As we give and sow into others and helping them with their dreams, the Lord does the same for us. So, I'm all about it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So yeah,
It
long-term
really
goal would be to have a gallery or like an art center where I could teach underprivileged kids. So that's my long-term goal.
I love it. I'll be driving down Melrose Drive and see the Daniel Redfern Gallery. I can't wait.
I love that.
So are there any new mediums or themes that you wish to explore in your art?
I have gotten into drawing on elongated 11 by 17 linen paper, which my whole life I've done the traditional 11, 8.5 by 11. But I did one of New York City, which has gotten a lot of great feedback, and I was not expecting that. That took about a month and a half to draw all by hand with my 15-year-old ruler that's been through so much with me. So that's
it's your best friend. But I saw that work, and that was incredible. Again, such intricate detailing. And I read that you just used a ruler and a pencil, and it's like, oh, wow, it was perfect.
So that, I think I'm definitely doing more cityscapes in America. So San Francisco's next. Then I would love to do DC. I will say DC doesn't have skyscrapers because of height restrictions. So I'll have to get extra creative with that one.
Wow, nice. So what legacy do you hope to leave behind?
Yeah.
The Van Goghs of the world. What about the Redferns?
I hope, people look at my work and they're like, wow, that was a beautiful moment in time, because that's what they are, snapshots in time. And, I hope that, all of my collection, which is huge, I'm going to leave some to my niece, but I would love to donate it to a museum. I would say probably half and half on the East and West Coast, because I've lived on both East and West Coast my life. So I think that would be full circle to donate it or just keep it. I have not gotten my collection appraised, and every art curator in the world has slammed my Instagram inbox and says, you need to get that appraised ASAP. And it's just it's a lot of work, right? To bring someone in to do 5,000 works of art. So it is on my long-term goal, but it's not cheap.
Right. So now, who's the ideal collector of Daniel Redfern art?
I would say someone that loves elevated luxury or elegance. Definitely a family. A lot of my clients are families, like large families. I grew up in a normal, average-sized family, but I think definitely and a higher net wealth individual. I do have clients that are average, Americans, but definitely I think a millionaire or billionaire. It's just so interesting when they reach out, because I'm like, wow, like, I can't believe we're having this connection. Like, what do I even say? Because I feel so poor.
No.
When I talk to them. So they're very nice. They're the nicest people on earth. They're so, like, down to earth. And so,
well, that's what I say. The only difference between the rich and the poor is the rich have more money. We're all human. We're all made in God's image. We all, are journeying through this life experience as the gift of God, sharing our unique gifts and talents with one another. And so, no one is better than another or different in any way other than our uniqueness. I say God broke the mold when He created each and every one of us.
I love that. That's amazing. I love that. But yeah, it's just, I think definitely I've had high net wealth individuals reach out, and it's just it's overwhelming. So I'm like, what do I do? So I give them the listing from the Naturalist Gallery, and we've only been on the market for 2 months, so it's again very early. I do have 6 months with them contractually, of course, to revisit. But I'm confident it will sell. But I definitely think a large family, definitely an American buyer. American Fine Artist is in my bio everywhere, so I would like to keep it in America, but I'm open.
Because it's all about made in USA these days.
Yes, well, also just landscapes, California, Washington, D.C., Northern Virginia. You can't replicate those overseas, unfortunately.
It's so true. No, yeah, there's like different worlds.
Yeah,
there really are.
And different times, in our history. So I'm open to all offers, but definitely I think an American buyer, high net worth individual is preferable, but everyone can enjoy art,
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's subjective. So, as they say, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Like an art collector or a buyer, wherever they are in the world, if they lay eyes on the work and it just touches their heart, there's no price tag for that. That's
right.
Why they'll be willing to pay whatever price to have that piece in their presence.
And I will say, my appraiser said get in early because she thinks my pieces are going to triple in value over the course of time. And so I think that's the best and fair price. We'll just see. God has mysterious ways of working, and I just put my trust and faith into Him every day.
Amen. That's right. And He'll work all things together for our good is what the Bible tells us. And when we delight ourselves in the Lord, He gives us the desires of our heart. So we can trust that. So I'm so excited to see who ultimately does end up buying the pieces. Your work is incredible. You are so talented. Yes. And I'm so glad we connected. So how can our listeners, readers get in touch with you, buy your pieces? What's the best way?
Yep, on my website it has a contact form, and that's best. But also through Instagram, if they're social media savvy, my email address is also on my website, and that's the best hub to contact me.
So that's DanielRedfern.net, and your Instagram handle is
Daniel Redfern _art.
Excellent. Wonderful. Well, it's been, again, such an honor to connect with you. Thank you so much. Yeah, for coming on. Let's stay in touch and revisit your journey down the road. And we can talk about who ultimately ended up buying both the Eternal Majesty and the other celebrity pieces. But really, I think over time you'll sell your pieces one at a time.
Yes, I agree. And thank you so much for your time. And I love Beverly Hills Magazine, and it's been an honor and pleasure. Thank you.
Oh, well, we love you too, Daniel. God bless you, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thank you.
Bye. Bye.